We're going to make a curb chain, 4mm lengths, and this will take 3 lengths of 1mm wire, 200mm long. I use a cordless drill to make my jump rings. Just stick the wire in, bend it 90 degrees, spin it up. When it gets to about 25 mil from the end, stop. You don't want that flipping through your fingers. I usually put it in my bench bag and finish forming it. So you'll have 3 sets of these. I clip the tag ends off just so it's easier to use. Always keep that end from flying away. Now I put my coil against my bench peg, and you cut at a 45-degree angle. And cut one jump ring at a time. That way you'll have a really nice clean edge. Cut them all. When you get them all cut, close half of them using your parallel jaw pliers. You can use chain nose, but what you're going to do is just push that past the end, bring it back, and you want it to touch 100%. You want that to be as good as it can be. So close half of them. So now we have half of them closed, half of them are still open. We're going to solder these. Get your soldering block, cut snippets of hard solder. These are solder snippers. I find them quite handy for this kind of work. It cuts an equal amount of solder. Okay? Now the trick with these is we're going to flux. This is hard solder. We're going to flux the solder where it's sitting. Then we're going to place our jump ring on top of the solder. We'll flux the jump ring, and this will make the soldering dead easy. So what I do is pick up the jump ring, flux the join, place it directly on the piece of solder. Do that for all of them. I normally put the joins at the top so that I don't even have to look. I just know it's at the top, so then I can just solder them all one after another. I'm using the Smith's mini torch with a neutral flame. Now, when you're placing these jump rings on your solder, you could actually put the solder outside, inside, on top, or underneath. As long as it's touching the join, it'll solder. I'll just zoom in so you can see. I'm just going to do one at a time. The flux will go clear, the solder will flow. Pick up your jump ring and just shift it so that the flux doesn't stick it to the solder pad. You can see how quickly this happens. Solder all of your jump rings that are closed. Now assemble your chain. Use an open jump ring. Put 2 of your soldered jump rings on. Close it perfectly like you did the other ones. Do another one. Closed, 2 closed, 1 open. When you have all of your soldered jump rings assembled onto unsoldered ones. So you'll have these groups of 3. Now you'll start assembling them into a chain. So put 2 sets of 3 on, close it, and when you get all of them like this, then assemble these longer ones, and you'll end up with a chain. Every other one is soldered, every other one is unsoldered. Just make sure that you close the joins as good as you can, because now we're going to solder the unsoldered ones. I'm using a GRS third hand, and I've got the join at the very top, and I've got the third hand as far away from the join as I can get it. That's so this doesn't suck heat away from it. And we're going to angle our flame up from the bottom so that the only thing the flame touches is that join. We don't want to solder any of these together. I'm going to pick solder this, and what we want to do is put a bunch of pallions on our soldering block. Light our torch. And I'll just zoom in and show you how to pick up the solder. Now this is a tungsten soldering pick. Titanium won't work for this. You're just going to put the pick on the opposite side of your solder join, heat the pick until it's red, touch it against the solder and it'll stick. Now we're going to shift up to our chain. Just a small amount of flux right on the join. Position your pick above the join, heat it, and the solder will flow. Okay? So when you heat this, the flux will go clear. You immediately put your pick on with the solder. It'll flow. Use your tweezers to shift the next one up that you need to solder. So here it is again. Small amount of flux on the join. Heat your pick, pick up your solder, heat the join, place your solder with the pick, the solder will flow. I like the double GRS third hands because they're very precise, but it also lets me brace my hand on one side so I'm not quite so shaky. Do all of these. I'll just show you my technique. I keep my torch in my hand. Flux, pick up your solder, flow, grab the next one, shift it up, flux, pick up your solder, flow. Goes quite quickly. Okay, this is the last one. Now, turn off your torch, quench this, and pickle it. Take your chain out of the pickle using copper tongs. Rinse it. Now, you can use copper, plastic, bamboo, anything but steel. If you use steel, it'll copper plate your silver, and it's a bugger to get off. So now we're going to dry this, and if you wanted to, you could stop at this point. This is what they call a cable chain. It makes a good charm bracelet, but we're going to make a curved chain. Once you've dried it off, inspect each solder join individually. You have to physically look at each one. If you have one that's not good, now's the time to fix it. Now we're going to take our parallel jaw pliers and we're going to put the solder join towards the open part of the pliers, and we're just going to squeeze it into an oval. And the reason we put the solder joint at the end is so that it is actually hidden, so you'll have the join inside the link. It's a lot tidier if you do it that way. So go through them all, shift the solder joint to the end, squeeze it into an oval. Do them all. So don't kill these by squeezing them too tight, just a nice oval. So now we have an oval link cable chain, and once again you could stop at this point. It's a nice chain, but we're going to continue. Now what we're going to do is grab the very end of each link and we're going to twist it 90 degrees. So you can see my pliers are lined up here, and we're just going to twist it until the one set of pliers is 90 degrees from the other one. Now I twist mine to the right. Whichever way you twist it doesn't matter as long as you twist them all the same. So now we just go to the next one, grab the very ends, twist it 90 degrees. So you can see already that that's what it's going to look like. Do them all. So here's our oval link curved chain. Now you need to make or buy a hook for the end. We're going to make one. This is a 45 mil long piece of 1.5 diameter wire. File the end flat. Take your flat round pliers, grab the end, curl that into a really tight loop, solder that. So your hook is now soldered, and you're going to hold that vertically, the loop vertically, and you're going to use a slightly rounded end of a planishing hammer or a jeweler's hammer and hammer that to half its thickness. Put your hook on your bench plate or an anvil, and you're going to hallmark it with the loop up. Here's our finished product. Our nice hook on the end. Leave a couple of jump rings on the other end around so that you can adjust it. Now don't polish this on the Tripoli wheel. Put it in a tumbler. It's too easy to catch the chain and hurt your fingers, and you'll definitely hurt the chain. So that's it.